How you doing, guys? Eric from Little Wasteland. One thing you may not know about me, haven't told you guys this before, but I'm actually a millionaire. What you see behind me represents over 1.8 million in preps. Calories, that is, not dollars. Very important distinction to a poor like me. But as you can see, we have all various kinds of food storage represented here in this massive stack that I'm unfortunately going to have to put away after I make this video. But I needed to do inventory, needed to move some stuff anyway, so I thought it'd be a good time to bust this all out in a nice glorious thumbnail display that you could all see. And this isn't even all of it. I didn't drag all my canned goods out. This that most of them are staying where they are, so I didn't have to do any of that. But all the long-term storage food here, not the frozen goods, not all the canned, is sitting here in this magnificent pile in my living room. So like I said, this magnificent pile represents just over almost 1.9 million calories. So by my count is around 1,887,000 calories. And I try, as I've talked to you guys before, have a pretty good split of protein and fats and carbs. Carbs are obviously the easiest. And by my count, about 450 plus thousand calories are from the protein sources, of which I'm of course including the glorious stag chili because it has a decent amount in there, and then the rest are almost pure protein sources like the canned tuna, like the Spam and stuff like that. So let's just break it down on what kind of like a major, multi-year, almost 1,000 days worth of 2,000 calories. Let's go through the breakdown of what all various things are represented here and their quantities. As I'm sure you guys could guess based on videos that I've made in the past, a huge, overwhelming portion of the calories represented in my disaster preparedness food supply is in rice. Specifically basmati rice, a little bit of white rice mixed in there as well. Basmati rice is just much more delicious to me, slightly more expensive, but still pretty cheap. Extremely cheap actually on a dollar to calorie ratio. And so I have quite a bit of this stuff, mostly packed in 5-gallon buckets with O2 absorbers and Mylar bags. As you can see here, got a couple of these bags that I need to put away. But in general, it's all stored away in the buckets. And that represents 852,000 calories, 530 pounds of rice. So needless to say, most of my meals in the apocalypse are gonna have at least a little bit of rice in them. But that's good, I like it. Now surprisingly, this next single biggest category, individually at least, for calories is what I call these crap buckets. Augustin Farm type stuff, the emergency food supply. These are not good. They don't taste good, they don't have good ingredients. Usually they're not even that great of a calorie to dollar ratio, especially compared to, storing your own rice and whatnot. But I got these from an auction and like a liquidation, so they were much cheaper than they would otherwise normally be. And at the prices I got them, you could make the argument that it's worth it, but my plan with these is that these are what I would use for trade or, selling or giving away. Not a super charitable person, but I do have friends and family, most of whom are probably not prepared. So they get to eat the crappy stuff because they're not prepared. So suck it, fellas. But in these buckets, I have, I believe it's 7 buckets with actually 185,000 calories represented. And the Valley Food Storage is down there. I made a video on there. That's much better than the Augustin Farms. The next single biggest chunk is in long-term stored oats, actually. And I don't eat oats almost ever on a day-to-day basis. I don't have a problem with them. It's just not part of my normal diet. So I have far fewer of that than I do of rice. And also it's a lot harder for me to eat just plain oats. White rice I'm fine with. Just plain oats with nothing else in it, not nearly as palatable. But I still have 91 pounds of oats representing 155,000 calories. So definitely quite a bit of meals. We're still gonna have oats too. Not a problem. One of my favorite things, which is next up, is the whole egg powder. Fantastic, not cheap unfortunately, especially nowadays. They've gone way up post-COVID, along with everything else, but eggs specifically, you know how it's been with eggs, and the powdered eggs are no exception. These are the whole eggs. I have 40 pounds of the whole egg powder representing 122,000 calories of those. The next biggest category is not even pictured here because it is my frozen meats. I have 2 chest freezers and the freezer in my fridge, so I didn't pull that stuff out and weigh it, but I'm estimating very conservatively at 100 pounds of meat. I'm sure it's more than that, at 120,000 calories from that. Obviously, that's for, you know, lesser types of apocalypses. I do have a solar generator that I could run a chest freezer off of, and that's my plan if we don't have to deal with some sort of crazy EMP or something. But that's there to deal with price stability or instability and supply chain issues and all the various, you know, lower level SHTF things that would not necessarily take out power, or if they did, wouldn't take out all my powered equipment at least, so I could charge it with my solar generator. But still a big chunk, over 100,000 calories of frozen meat. Next up, the quintessential prepper food that we all know and love, Spam. I'm lucky that I like Spam. I think it's, even now, it's a pretty good cost, like value for the price in terms of long-term storable meat. Pre-COVID, you know, a few years ago, you used to be able to get these for $2.50 a can. Now you're lucky if you can find it for $3.50 a can. That's almost a 50% increase in a few years. Pretty disgusting, but still, it's actually one of the better values for, you know, getting your protein and your fat in a long-term stored food, in something that's, I think, more than palatable. I think it's actually good, especially when it's sliced thin and fried. And I have 100 cans of this stuff, which represents 108,000 calories. Got a chunk of freeze-dried stuff. These are very desirable category of stored food. It usually is pretty top tier in terms of taste, in terms of how, you know, stored food compared to other stored foods at least, and very lightweight. The problem is it is expensive. I got a lot of these Mountain House meals from the same auction that I was talking about, those buckets, at a very good price. I hope to expand, of any of the categories that I have here, this is the one that I'd like to expand the most, is the freeze-dried food, because especially it's my go-to choice for any bug out scenario because of the lighter weight and the fact that it doesn't necessarily need to be cooked. You just got to warm it up, add a little water in there for most of them. Some of it would potentially need to be cooked, but with all the freeze-dried foods I have here, represents 67, almost 68,000 calories, so decent chunk still. And then, lest we forget, I know you want to gaze lustily on my collection of the ultimate preparedness food, the Stag Chili Laredo. And before you guys panic, this paltry offering is not every can I have, not even close. I didn't want to drag them all out here just so you guys could greedily gaze upon them. Risk denting them up and everything. But I have 100 cans of canned chili. And like I mentioned before, you guys know the drill. They're delicious. They have extremely good macro split, like extremely good dollar to calorie to dollar ratio. Overall, just a fantastic choice for canned good food storage. And I have 100 cans of those, like I said, representing 60,000 calories. Next up is just the overall category of canned foods, veggies, and beans, represented here by these garbanzo beans. I didn't do an exact count of these. I have over 200, or I didn't write it down at least. I didn't want to calculate. I have 200 plus cans of various vegetables, beans, and things, which comes out to over 50,000 calories. Not sure the exact number because they're all various. I didn't want to add them up exactly. Some are a lot lower, like peas and green beans, which I don't have too many of those. And then some like baked beans and other kinds of beans. And I even have a few cans of corned beef hash that I didn't include amongst the meat. Those are much higher, so definitely over 50,000 calories in just various canned goods. Then, other than the Spam, I lumped all the other canned meats together with the exception of the tuna, which is represented here. So all the other canned meats are still in the pantry. I don't have them here, but I have chicken, I have corned beef, I have the mackerel and some kippered herring and stuff like that. So all my other cans of meats represent 38,000 calories. Not too many of those, but great to have, especially mix in with all these carbs like the rice and the oats. Then I actually have in my category of real emergency / giveaway, I have these survival tabs. Not too many of those, but still 25,000 calories in those survival tabs for absolute emergencies. Raisins, which are not pictured here, which I use to make the oats palatable. I like mixing in raisins and honey and stuff. I didn't drag the honey out. I probably need to get more of that too. But raisins, I have 15,000 calories of raisins. That's pretty decent. Could last a couple of weeks on just raisins alone if I need to. Back here with our kind of emergency stuff, I got a few 36 bars, preparedness bars, 14,000 calories there. Tuna, this is not all of it. I have 150 cans of tuna, which is fantastic. For protein, they're not high calorie, but they are relatively good price for protein that lasts in a can. But like I said, they're not very high calorie, so I don't recommend trying to make a huge bulk of your preparedness with tuna. Because even these 48 cans that I have, 150 cans of tuna only represents 13,000 calories. You compare that to 100 cans of stag chili, 60,000. So yeah, tuna, like I said, 150 cans, 13,500 calories. Canned fruits, not a huge portion of my preparedness plan, but great to mix it up, almost like a dessert. Maybe get some extra vitamins and minerals that you don't have in some of these other things. 48 cans representing 9,600 calories. So beyond that, I just have what I consider pantry, everything else that is not part of my specific food storage plan. So we have, like I mentioned, the honey. I have a little bit of honey, all my normal food that's in the fridge, protein bars, sauces, beverages, as well as my lover's food and her normal diet, not preparedness food, which is everything she has in the house to eat on a normal day-to-day basis, pasta sauces, stuff like that, even her cat food, her cat, depending on how serious things get. But I would estimate, just very conservatively, every other shred of food in the house that not part of my preparedness plan that I've counted up for this at 50,000 calories. And it's very easily could be much more than that, especially when you add in various cans of beverages and stuff lying around and just everything. But I think it's safe to assume that that would be an extra 50,000 calories conservatively. And that puts me, like I said, at the 1,887,421 calories, which at 2,000 calories a day is quite a bit, 900 plus days of human eating. But obviously multiple people, but can go a long way. Definitely feeling pretty good about that, luckily, and a good starting point. Let me know what you guys think and the areas that you feel like you need to bolster up the most. Like I said, for me, I think it's the freeze-dried stuff is the most desirable to me, simply because it's the most expensive, and so I have not that much of it. And it's great for any sort of bug out or transportation scenario because it is so light.